Found the perfect girl for Charlie. Smart, beautiful, the whole thing.
Where?
Right there.
Over by the pool table?
Yeah. Nice. That's great, Mac.
Good work, Mac.
That's a dude.
You're different from most girls.
I'm a man.
And I'm a man, too.
Is that a penis in your pants?
Yeah.
I was a very queer and trans kid. Like, even like when I came out in like the 5th grade or whatever, my mom was like, oh yeah, we definitely thought you were gay. I wanted to wear dresses like my sister did, and she dressed me up. But when I brought it up to people at school, at my preschool, they made fun of me for it. So then I didn't express that part of myself for a really long time.
We're at the Ivy Wild School in Colorado Springs at my wife's store, Odds and Ends Emporium. This whole building used to be a school, and this room used to be a classroom, and now it's a toy store with profanity. I'm Heidi Beadle. I'm 38 years old. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am a reporter for the Colorado Times Recorder, where I write about politics and reproductive justice.
That's cool. When did you realize you were trans?
Yeah, I guess, when I was a kid, like 6 or 7, and I distinctly remember thinking, I wish I could be a girl, and I could, identifying with like girl characters and things.
So like, what was like the first like trans woman or like gender nonconformity you saw in media?
Probably like Bugs Bunny on like Looney Tunes in drag. I remember when Ace Ventura came out, like that was a big, like popular movie, and of course, the twist of the film is the fact that one of the characters is actually trans.
Einhorn is a man!
And there's this like profound extended scene, it's just gratuitous, of Ace Ventura kind of expressing his disgust over having kissed a transgender woman. When I grew up, like, being trans wasn't really an option. Like, it wasn't seriously something anyone could do. And that was like reaffirmed like in media, in the reaction that people have against trans people.
While that seems really harmless, it's not. This perception that we are gay men that are trying to like trick your poor straight sons into like deviant homosexual sex. I feel like that's so gross. If you look at pretty much any case of a trans woman being murdered, it's because their partner or sexual partner figured out that they were trans and then killed them because of it.
Last year, the Human Rights Campaign tracked at least 26 deaths due to fatal violence. The majority of victims were Black transgender women.
At least 44 trans or gender nonconforming people were murdered in 2020.
And investigators are looking into a hate crime after 3 transgender women were attacked. The victims say instead of helping them, witnesses mocked them.
James Dixon admitted to the police that he'd beaten Nettles to death.
I just didn't want to be fooled, I took a lot of, my powers at stake,
The Gay and Trans Panic Defense, or LGBTQ+ Panic Defense, is a defense used by individuals who seek to evade personal responsibility for violent crimes, including murder.
I grew up in the era of, Jerry Springer. You watch like daytime TV and they would do these kind of sensational transsexual episodes. She used to be a he and that kind of thing.
Man, you a man.
And those were some of my first experiences to trans people in media.
How did it make you feel?
Pretty bad. I mean, I stayed in the closet. The idea of like telling my dad that I was gonna be a woman just seemed impossible, you know, and ridiculous. And it made me join the army. I mean, I thought, you know, they said it'll make a man out of you. It didn't. I was in from 2003 to 2011, and that was like don't ask, don't tell. I mean, everything was pretty explicitly homophobic. I really tried hard to be that like toxic, masculine, dude bro guy person. I was not very good at it.
I'm a very big believer that gender roles hurt everybody in society. And a lot of these like transphobic stereotypes, they kind of are based off of those gender roles.
You know, a perfect example of bad psychology sort of permeating popular culture is Silence of the Lambs.
Billy is not a real transsexual, but he thinks he is. He tries to be. He's tried to be a lot of things, I expect.
They're talking about the antagonist in the film who is a failed transsexual who is murdering women because he wasn't allowed to transition. If Buffalo Bill had just been given like hormones and, you know, a support group, he probably would have been fine. Nobody would have been murdered, right? But
I feel like most media portrayals of trans women portray us as like predators and victimizers. Like I rewatched Sleepaway Camp recently. It kind of portrays us as both.
God, she's a boy.
The main character in that movie, she was like forced to change her gender.
I mean, we already have a boy, so another one simply would not do. Oh, no.
And then she has like PTSD from it, so then she kills everyone who's mean to her. Something that happens in a lot of media. The revealing of their trans identity also correlates with the reveal of them being the bad guy.
He tried to be his mother. And, now he is.
So it's like, this person's a murderer, but they're also a tranny. I've met so many trans women who are like massive fans of body horror movies.
You know, Cronenberg, everybody loves him when you talk about body horror, but I mean like The Fly.
One of my favorite body horror movies, Tetsuo the Iron Man. The whole movie is about a man whose flesh is turning into metal. I think I was in 6th grade and I was in the bathroom and I noticed I had facial hair, and then I just went into the stall and I sobbed for like 20 minutes before I went back to class. I imagine I would react very similarly if I started turning into a giant fly or started turning into metal. That's what it feels like. Your body's changing in ways that are grotesque and horrifying to you.
It's this process, and you have to like cope with the changes, and you have to adapt to them, and you come out the other side of that experience as something different, and I think that's really cool. You know, cis people don't get to experience that, so.
I'm just a sweet transvestite from transsexual Transylvania.
I really, really love that movie. But thinking more about trans people in media and then watching that movie, it kind of brings up some stuff I didn't really notice.
I love you.
Cishet people, like Brad and Janet, they're the victims and they're being like groomed and brainwashed into the evil queer degeneracy or whatever. Like queer people love that movie. Gay people love Rocky Horror Picture Show. But the horror stems around gender nonconformity. I know a lot of trans women have negative opinions about drag. Like they think drag is like laughing at them or whatever, and I can definitely understand that. But I don't think that drag is very malicious towards trans people. And I do think that it's a cool thing.
I don't know if I want to say like Divine is an example of like good trans representation, but I feel like John Waters' films where, you know, you're not just seeing some like tragic trans woman who's upset that she can't transition.
I feel like they're so explicitly made for like queer people. Like queer people made them. It's like an FU to like respectability politics.
Could you give us some of your political beliefs?
Kill everyone now. Condone first-degree murder. Advocate cannibalism. Eat Filth are my politics. Filth is my life. Take whatever you like.
And I feel like it uses the stereotypes very purposefully to this message of like, the things you want us to, the specific things you want us to do in order to gain your respect are so stupid. If you're not going to accept us at our worst, then you don't accept us at all. I think that me being trans gives me a better perception of who I am in bigger ways. Like, I feel like I'm a much more emotionally intelligent person and a much more empathetic person because of it.
I was worried that, like, by coming out, my family would kind of, like, break up. Honestly, I feel like transitioning saved my relationship with my children. You know, I was not who I needed to be. As myself, you know, I'm a much better mom than I was a dad, I guess.
I'm trans, Norma, and I can choose if and when I tell people. I've never been happier.
I just watched this show with my son. You can include trans characters without making it, you know, the entire plot of the show. And that's a really good example. There are trans novels, there are films with trans characters. We're becoming part of the cultural landscape, whether transphobes like it or not.
Who's Victor?
I am. Who I've always been.
Things are better now than when I was in high school. And I imagine, hopefully 20 years from now, they will be better than they are now.